And you look at my movies, I've been able to have that because of everyone here that you've enabled me to and allowed me to entertain you. And it's a privilege for me, and it's something that I have never taken for granted. And it is my passion making movies. It is my passion to entertain you.
I am such an awesome guy. I make so many videos.
Hello there. Price of Reason here with a movie review. Sometime in 2016, Hollywood made a big decision. Instead of entertaining people, it would gradually become a political platform to promote all of its favorite agendas. It would look down at most of its paying customers as it pushed divisive ideologies down their throats. It would replace storytelling, escapism, adventure, and fun with heavy-handed messaging, lectures, and propaganda. As a result, men became losers, women became perfect, people's skin pigmentation became an obsession, while genders became more, flexible? Even as the world was hit by a strange and unexpected illness, an economic downturn, and heavy inflation, Hollywood refused to change its course. If anything, it doubled down on it, and if you didn't say that you loved everything that Hollywood studios were doing, their precious access media would label you an ist and a phobe. Unfortunately for Hollywood, there was just one problem. Tom Cruise never got that memo. As an industry veteran that has been producing and starring in movies for over 4 decades, Cruise has always understood one very important and fundamental rule. Never take your customers for granted and always give them the best cinematic experience you can. In 2022, just when Hollywood and the access media had claimed that nobody wanted to go to movie theaters anymore, Tom Cruise proved them wrong with the release of Top Gun Maverick, a cinematic blockbuster that ignored every single Hollywood trend of its day and delivered close to $1.5 billion at the worldwide box office. It was the kind of movie we used to see from Hollywood before an entire industry had decided to alienate most of its audience, and while Hollywood had to recognize Tom Cruise's achievement with Top Gun Maverick, in many cases this recognition was half-hearted, as it largely refused to acknowledge why the movie was a success. From attributing its popularity with audiences to old people, politics, being a fluke or an unexplainable anomaly, Hollywood never seemed to learn from Top Gun Maverick's success or its own mistakes. As another year went by, Hollywood refused to change its course, which is how we ended up with 2023's summer box office, which is now being labeled by experts as the summer of flops. But with Mission Impossible: Dead Reckoning, Tom Cruise is here to teach Hollywood a lesson. Again. For those who are unaware, Mission Impossible is a series of movies starring Tom Cruise that started in 1996, and while Dead Reckoning is the 7th entry into the franchise, you can enjoy this movie even if you've never seen a previous installment. In that sense, I've always considered this series as Tom Cruise's version of a James Bond series, only with an American agent based on Bruce Geller's 1960s TV show of the same name. While the first few installments of the series were all box office successes in their day, their quality was rather uneven, especially the third installment, directed by J.J. Abrams, which also happens to be the lowest grossing entry of the entire franchise to date. But the fourth entry of the franchise is where the series really found its footing, as it was the first movie to involve the writing of Chistopher McQuarrie, who would later write, direct, and co-produce all future installments of the franchise. With all of the creative pieces of the puzzle in place, since Rogue Nation, every Mission Impossible movie has actually improved on its predecessor, finally giving Tom Cruise the exact type of secret agent franchise he'd always wanted. And whether Hollywood fully acknowledges it or not, Mission Impossible: Dead Reckoning, the latest installment, couldn't have come at a better time for the industry. I've already seen this movie in an advanced screening, and I can honestly say that as a moviegoer, it was everything I had hoped it would be, and more. In this movie, Tom Cruise's IMF agent, Ethan Hunt, and his team are up against a new enemy, the likes of which they've never encountered, one that involves artificial intelligence and an important device that they have to obtain. And if all of that sounds pretty simple and straightforward, it's because it is, and for this type of spy action movie, it's exactly what it's supposed to be. But in these types of movies, equally or even more important than the story itself is the cast, direction, set pieces, and overall escapist atmosphere. And in that sense, this movie absolutely delivers in every single aspect. I don't know if Tom Cruise has ever been better in the role of Ethan Hunt, which is quite an achievement given the guy is 61 years old. Acting-wise, Cruise slips back into this role without missing a beat. He's just as intense and charismatic today as he was when the series started in 1996, maybe even more so. He also performs most of his own stunts in this movie, and when I say stunts, I mean stunts. Most actors, even half his age, would probably have most of their stunt work done with a mix of stuntmen, stand-ins, and CGI visual effects, but not Tom Cruise. He's running, he's punching, he's jumping. If there's a car chase, he's driving. If there's a motorcycle, he's riding it. Even if it means that he has to ride it off a cliff. Even if it means that after he rides it off a cliff, he has to parachute next to the side of a mountain. You see, this man said that he wanted to give his audience the best possible viewing experience, and he meant it. While some may call it extreme, there's no question about how dedicated Cruise is towards his craft and how important the entire movie business is to him. And while I would totally understand if he did rely on CGI visual effects for these type of action scenes, there's no doubt that these type of practical effects look much better than anything CGI can produce, which really enhances the overall enjoyment of the movie. The supporting cast here is solid as usual. Ving Rhames, Simon Pegg, and Rebecca Ferguson all comfortably return to their roles, and it's always good to see them. You can tell that by this point these actors are already used to working and playing off of each other. Henry Czerny returns to the franchise after 27 years as an intelligence official, and it's a welcome return. Vanessa Kirby comes back to the franchise as well, and there are a few important scenes where she really gets to show off her acting skills. Carrie Elwes of Princess Bride and Saw has a good turn as a Homeland Security official too. Boardwalk Empire's Shea Wiggum plays a government agent, and he's suitable for this role as well. Pom Klementif, best known as Mantis from Guardians of the Galaxy, is also in this movie, and I think that playing a less silly role is a nice change of pace for her. Also, without those strange tentacles, I finally know what she looks like. But for me, the real standout in this movie is Hayley Atwell. To date, Atwell has always been best known for appearing in British period dramas and for being Peggy Carter in the Marvel Cinematic Universe, but I've always felt that she's never really been given a good mainstream blockbuster role. Well, all of that changes in Mission Impossible: Dead Reckoning, where she is, in my opinion, fantastic. Atwell somehow manages to match Tom Cruise's intensity in a way that really complements it, and the on-screen chemistry between them is great too. To me, this came as somewhat of a surprise, as I guess I wasn't familiar with her game. Another pleasant surprise for me was how well this movie handled its female characters in writing, presentation, and action scenes. In recent years, when Hollywood has been trying to create an impression that women are the exact same as men in every single aspect, they've been writing and presenting them as arrogant, unlikable, physically overpowered, and boyish looking. Thankfully, Tom Cruise doesn't have any time for such nonsense. While the women in his movie are smart and competent, they also look feminine, and the different action scenes take into consideration their size and weight. And when the female characters in this movie act like femme fatales, they actually look and act the part. And even more impressive, this movie actually gives its female characters story arcs that are decently written, causing the audience to actually connect with them. Now, I know some weirdos in Hollywood may not like this since they want women to look and act unappealing, but in my opinion, Tom Cruise actually does his female cast a big service here. You walk out of the movie actually liking these female characters and actresses, which is exactly what needs to happen in a movie like this. And perhaps the best part of Mission Impossible: Dead Reckoning is that it never tries to downsize, minimize, humiliate, or embarrass its male hero. Ethan Hunt is a good guy, and while men or women may trick or deceive him at times, he's never presented as a buffoon or as incompetent. And you can always tell that he has morals, honor, and a sense of duty. Now, some of you may think that all of this sounds very trivial, but unfortunately, it's something we rarely see in Hollywood these days, even with established male characters. Look no further than Disney Lucasfilm and Kathleen Kennedy's Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny. They did everything to tear down Harrison Ford's iconic hero in order to boost Phoebe Waller-Bridge's younger, arrogant, and unlikable character, and the movie ended up being one of the biggest box office flops of all time. Even the James Bond franchise, which was Tom Cruise's bigger competitor for years, has managed to completely ruin its main hero in his last movie by diminishing him. In No Time to Die, Daniel Craig's final movie as Bond, 007 gets rejected by women, he weeps, talks about his feelings, and then dies by walking into a missile. And while admittedly, that movie did actually make money, I'm not quite sure how the Bond franchise can even come back from that, as I'm pretty sure that most moviegoers didn't like seeing the character defeated in that way. In that sense, I think Mission Impossible has delivered a better Bond type of movie than we've seen from Bond in years, and I suspect that most moviegoers will feel that way as well, because at the end of the day, you can't fool audiences. They may not always understand the ins and outs of writing, directing, and producing a film, but they often know when something is done with real care versus lazy agenda peddling. In a time where an entire industry has lost sight of what its main objective is, Tom Cruise has become more focused on that objective than ever, and if he manages to somehow rescue Hollywood again at the summer 2023 box office, much like he did in 2022, well, then he really has accomplished a seemingly impossible mission. Again, what did you think of Mission Impossible: Dead Reckoning, and how much did you love it? Feel free to let me know in the comments, and if you enjoyed this video, please consider subscribing to my channel, and also clicking on that wonderful notification bell. Thanks for watching, my friends. Thank you, and good day.
I am such an awesome guy. I make so many videos.